Legal practitioner, Mr. G.T. Ogunye, joins us on the program this morning as we walk through the big issues in the polity, judiciary, governance. Mr. Ogunye, good morning. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
The last time we had a conversation, good morning.
Yes.
I remember it was about the state of emergency in River State.
Exactly.
Now we have some sort of state of emergency, particularly in the petroleum sector. And we're inching closer and closer to a disaster we cannot afford right now. Haven't seen all of the different parties. I mean, you're a concerned Nigerian, you're a stakeholder in that you use these products. You also see what's happening with the judiciary involved, the industrial court given a ruling yesterday. What do you make of all of this, Mr. Ogunye? And also, I must add, the retrenchment of the workers, the way the labor unions are going about this. It's a lot in the mix, I know.
Now, I think that the right to freedom of association is recognized in our Constitution as one of the fundamental human rights. And I reference Section 40. That right includes the right to join freely a trade union of one choice. The bigger issue here is that in Nigeria, this right is often violated in the workplace. And incidentally, just as an example, many Nigerians will have noted now, or noticed, that in virtually all the private tertiary institutions in Nigeria, particularly universities, unions are not allowed to exist. So when the Academic Staff Union of Universities is threatening strike or, having labor issues with the federal government, the private universities are not bothered because unions are not allowed to operate freely in those private institutions. And now, we have more private universities in Nigeria now than we have public universities, in the manner of speaking, because every time you see them being established. And many people have not wondered why. It is because the employers of labor in those institutions do not brook the existence of trade unions, because they think that if trade unions were to exist, that these unions will fight for the rights of the workers, they will engage in collective bargaining, they will talk about their welfare and so on and so forth. And the federal government turns a blind eye to it. And the NUC, in encouraging the growth of university, in issuing license, the federal government in particular, does not make it as part of the conditions for the existence of a tertiary institution, private tertiary institution, that a trade union should exist. Not to talk about many organizations now, that engage in casualization, contract workers and all that. So that right is there. And so in the Dangote's case, I think that it is the issue of disregard or seeming disregard to the exercise of that right that is at the foundation of this current crisis. I've heard many people say that Dangote is a private refinery, is brought in humongous investment in Nigeria, is helping Nigeria to solve its intractable energy crisis. Perennially we had these problems. And so people have been making arguments that this union are overbearing and therefore they should allow Dangote be. It's not that fast, it's not that straightforward. I think that what is necessary, and I'm not going to dabble into what the court has done, is that there should be discussion. Discussion should have held before now. Under the Trade Dispute Act, you have cancellation, you have arbitration before you have adjudication. And I think that the Ministry of Labor, the federal government, should step in to ensure that there's harmony in that sector. The Dangote refinery is too young to have this kind of problem. And, because the unions are stronger in our public institution, the moribund refineries and so on and so forth, people are wondering, why are they, pussyfooting? Why are they, prancing about in the private entity. No, it is not so. Even in private institutions, union rights are observed, and we've seen this in many places. So we'll call for industrial harmony, we'll call for industrial peace, we'll call for negotiation and discussion and settlement. I don't think that it is correct as a retaliatory move to, in one fell swoop, dismiss about 800 workers because they've elected to be unionized. Now, we are not even talking about such a union having a problem with Dangote on trade matters. The mere fact that they dare join a union.
It's preemptive in that sense.
So I don't think that we have to do that. Because you see, down the road, we still meet with larger issues, including the issue of trust issue. In the United States, antitrust laws are very serious issues. In the sector, it is said that yes, to promote efficiency, the refinery will now directly be retailing products and so on. These are verging on, trust issues, when a monopoly, wants to. So I think that some of these issues will ease when we have more refineries in Nigeria. The Boa one is on stream, others will come. We don't know what will happen to the government-owned one, whether it will be scrapped or, we don't know. So if we have more, I think that the attention Dangote will be reduced. And I think that rather than this kind of, I've just put in this investment, so these people want to disruptive mentality, I think that that mentality can ease, and that in that sector we'll have industrial harmony.
And, management of this industrial disharmony is key, from what you have said, as we look, at what may happen in the future when there are more players in the industry. How has the government managed this one? What should it have done to even prevent the case getting to this level in the first place? And speaking of cases, let's transit now to Osun local government dispute between the ruling PDP in that state and the All Progressives Congress. Things are happening in quick succession, and we've been looking at it in the last couple of days on a shorter scale. But now we hear federal government saying that the PDP is misleading the public to say that it released the funds to sacked APC chairman, that it didn't do so. But we have also heard that a court has prevented a bank from releasing the funds in the first place. The last thing we heard, or one of the many court cases that we have, court rulings that we have heard, was that the court stopped APC from reviving the case. What is your legal intervention on what is playing out in Osun local government matter?
The matters are scattered all over the courts now, from the lower court to the apex court. And so sometimes it's like a litigational labyrinth. It's difficult to navigate through the process and know what is going on at each particular time. But let me just say generally first that my consistent position has been that the court is not suited to adjudicate blatantly political disputes. And although people will say that political dispute may come with a hue of legal dispute that the court can adjudicate. Yes, I can say that. But cases like this are very difficult to navigate because parties are unrelenting. They will want to go to court to litigate, to get validation for their own position. And even when the matter, is ultimately decided by courts, we've seen occasions in which, because the parties are energized, they have vested interest, and they have the money, state resources to spend, they can hire lawyers to go back to court to attempt a litigation. The Supreme Court on occasion damned very senior lawyers who came back to talk about having the Supreme Court to look at cases that had been decided and all that. So, and this is because interests are vested and the parties have huge purses and all that. Now, my view and that's the second point, is that the cases in court that have to deal with the issue, the foundation of this dispute was the issue of whether the local government elections that were conducted were proper, whether the tenure of the preceding local government chairman, whether their tenure, and council, whether their tenure was up, and the matter was litigated in court, and there was a court of appeal decision. And on the back of that now, the issue of whether they were still the authentic one or their tenure had, elapsed by a fraction of time came in, and we had that problem. In the course of that, there was an attempt to rely more or less on self-help to enforce that decision, which had a catastrophic effect. Lives have been lost in this needless battle. If you ask me, in Ikire or something, some people who are going to the council, were killed in that process. And now the battle is still raging on the issue of who is the party or who are the ones that are entitled to receive the local government funds. The courts can continue to litigate this issue, but in spite of the fact that the political parties are different now, we're talking about PDP and the APC, and we have an APC government at the center and a PDP government in Osun State, it will still be useful to have a political settlement. I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility, not because the courts are not there to adjudicate, but you see, the courts are always caught in the vortex of intractable political dispute like this, woven as legal disputes. And partisans will be saying that they want to enrich the rule of law. It is not so. I give you an example. In 2003, 2004, there was a dispute about the creation of 37 local council development area in Lagos State. In Lagos State. And that dispute, ended up at the Supreme Court. The Lagos State government and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the governor of Lagos State then, claimed the right to establish local government development councils, local government areas, via the power exercised by the House of Assembly. And the Obasanjo's federal government said no, that it couldn't create or establish local government. And the matter went to the Supreme Court. And Honorable Justice Mohammed Westcott Supreme Court held that the state government, i.e. the House of Assembly, had the power to establish, and in that case, they had done so. But that the local governments so established were inchoate. I'm using the example in the sense that this local government had not been listed in the Constitution. I know that only recently there's a bill in the National Assembly to eventually have those local government listed. That's after 24 or 20 years or so. But that they were inchoate, and that the funds of the local government council in Lagos that were withheld by the federal government shouldn't be withheld, that it was unconstitutional to do so. On that occasion, Chief Abebaola, who was representing the federal government, had reason to go to the Supreme Court to seek the interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment. And Westcott, admonished him. So it's not the first time that you had all these kind of things and said that, look, our judgment is written in plain English. You know what inchoate is. So go and interpret it the way you ought to interpret it. Don't come back here and tell us to. That's how vexed that issue was. And for 3 years, the local government funds were withheld. There was rule of law in Nigeria then. Okay? There was the constitution in Nigeria then. Okay? It was the Yar'Adua's government that eventually released the funds after Obasanjo left. 3 years, he refused to release the funds. I'm not saying that this was going to happen in this case, but I'm just saying that our courts can adjudicate disputes. And you can be following, okay, what's the latest? Oh, on 22nd of September, the federal government, federal high court has ruled. Is it the Abuja High Court that has jurisdiction? Should this be hard during vacation? Oh, and Oyo State High Court that ruled, you should not release one. You can be doing that for an eternity.
Mr. Ogunye, so here goes the question.
Yes.
Pardon me.
Yes.
And I followed the trail, your trail, up until this moment. And I want to tie it back to another big issue.
Yes.
Seeing what is playing out in Osun State right now, comparing it with what played out in River State, how close are we to a state of declaring emergency, if we're to compare?
You want me to speculate?
Because the president in that statement said other states should take a cue from this. So it's almost like, Osun, are you next? So how close, if we were to just compare?
I'm not sure we are close to a state of emergency.
How close are we? On a scale of 1 to 10, are we at 8, 7?
No, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, I would just say 2. Why? Because the legislature is intact.
So it's just the local government that is the issue here.
The executive is intact. The judiciary is intact. These are the 3 arms of government in Osun State.
No, they're confusing signals from the judiciary.
The local government are part and parcel of the executive, okay? Albeit at a local government level. But law and order has not broken down in Osun State, and they are not on the verge of
people have died.
I'm not saying
the courts are giving conflicting signals. You almost go to the court now, you're more confused than you were before you went there.
That's why I call it a labyrinth.
And you have rightly talked about the need for a political solution. That's because you acknowledge that, there's not going to be a clarity from the courts. Even if, for those who are saying, even if the case went to the Supreme Court now for determination, despite the fact that there have been so much effort prior to this time to get clarity from the court. And people are saying, look, the Supreme Court will likely rule in line with the strong interests vested in this case, i.e. the All Progressives Congress. What would you say to that?
No, I won't speculate about how the Supreme Court will rule, quite frankly, because it's not necessary to do so. The parties are in litigation, and so it is not right to prejudge in the public space a matter that is before the court. I'm not speaking tongue-in-cheek. I really believe what I'm saying. When we get to that point, you will then discuss the implication of that. But even when the Supreme Court is the last court of appeal and the matter is adjudicated, there will still be leverage. I'll just give you the example of Lagos State. The Supreme Court ruled. Then what happened? At the end of the day, the funds were still seized and all that kind of thing. So I think that political settlement is important. And I'm saying this because empirically now, we've seen that even in River State, when there are multiplicity of litigations, we've seen that the use politicians find for the judiciary is different from its appropriate use. In most cases, they abuse our court processes just to get validation and to get strength in a political combat. I don't think that the judiciary should be that used. And these cases take the time of the courts. They are given primacy in determination. Indeed, our constitution is so worded. Election petition, it takes primacy in determination. The dates are fixed. For ordinary civil appeal that get in court and get mired in the judiciary, they don't have that kind of primacy. Even when we talk about equality of all before the law, and presumably equality of parties before our courts, when they are, in the business of adjudication.
You made a very, very strong point. The use that politicians find for the judiciary is different from the purpose itself. And I think this is something for everybody to chew on. the judiciary itself. And I know that they say the judiciary shouldn't be, I mean, what's the news in that sense? But you can't separate the judiciary from
the
news, right?
They are human beings.
They're human beings.
They are the human element.
Certainly. We have to thank you so much. I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation and tie it to the current event. So it's always a pleasure when we get to sit down with you, Mr. G.T. Ogunye, legal practitioner. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm grateful.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, there's this whole drama playing out in the ADC, particularly in Adamawa State. And former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has also been speaking about issues in the polity and all of that. We'll bring those together for you in this next conversation, so stay with us. We'll be right back.